UFC 154 last night. I've got Rafa Spars on the line, which means it's time for Verbal Tap, the show that proves fighting is easier outside of the cage. Raf, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me, man.
How are you feeling post 154? Do you feel like you got the fight you wanted?
I don't know that the entire card was everything I wanted it to be.
Boy, is that an understatement, by the way.
I always like to say there's two hangovers. The first is from drinking. The second is from looking at your bill after a UFC event.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The great thing about this one was I thought the main fight justified everything, though.
I was just about to say, I think the main event is going to overshadow what a catastrophically bad fight card this was.
Yeah, and I mean...
But that fight was amazing. That fight was perfect. That fight was everything we could have asked for it to be. It didn't finish the way I would like, meaning I always like it when we really do have a finish.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was called correctly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was
agree?
not much to dispute, considering that you had a very dominant return to form from GSP and some really threatening situations that Carlos Condit was putting in that night.
Definitely. And before we get too much into the analysis, this is a great point to stop and say a little bit about what this podcast is. This is installment 1, so this is the first time for us. And this started about a year ago. Raf and I were pretty much recapping every single UFC event on Monday, enjoying it, having fun back and forth, mocking certain things, getting into some really cool wardrobe choices that we always love. We love what they walk out to the cage in. We feel like our MMA banter's as good as other people out there. We love MMA. Between the two of us, I mean, is that a fair statement that this is a sport we both have just a pure passion for?
Most definitely. I mean, you know, we follow other sports. I don't know if this is for you. I'm going to say it's for you, even if you don't agree to it, because I'm just going ahead with it now.
Love it.
But I think MMA is just a great sport that you can just sit back, root. You can technically root for both people if you want to, just because they're so good and they're at such an elite level of MMA that we will never be at.
Boy,
so
was I rooting
so
for
nice
both fighters, too. So that's a good statement. That's a good point. Even in that fight, I wanted Condit to reverse his way out of some of that top position just as bad as I wanted GSP to keep working high-level jiu-jitsu, to keep passing that guard and to keep grinding forward. So I agree. I loved both angles of that.
In that fight in particular, if we're going to stick on this for a second, holy shit, was there a moment when GSP got knocked down in the third round, and I don't know if this was true for everybody else watching, but I got up out of my seat.
I was standing. I was definitely standing.
You couldn't sit down and go, okay. Like, this was a king getting knocked off his throne, and you go, wait, whoa, this could change everything.
Yep.
What's Anderson Silva thinking? What am I thinking? What's Dana thinking?
And what's Condit? Is he out? Is he out? Because there was never a moment I wanted to see the referee ending. I wanted to see people coming into that cage before I would believe that fight's over. Because
definitely.
we know GSP has the chops to say, I still have a second. Well, let's just get into the fight. So we've done our precursor. We're going to start doing these before and after every event. We're going to preview the fight, which we did. We have some guesses, and we can establish who's better at predicting MMA, Raf or I, early in episode 1. And then we're going to review them so we can point out more loudly who was right and who was wrong. So
that's right.
Let's
Whether
just keep...
you want it or not, America, we're doing it anyway.
It's coming. The show is Verbal Tap. You want to plug our social media since you're the chair of social media?
Oh, God, I'm so bad at this. Okay. It is VerbalTapCast on Twitter, if you want to follow us on there.
Because
we will have our
Verbal Tap podcast was too long and Verbal Tap was taken, obviously, so we're Verbal Tapcast.
Yep, and we'll have lots of nonsense that we throw when you don't hear our lovely voices on this podcast. There will definitely be some commentary, good jokes, nonsense, all of the good stuff that you can put in 140
And send
characters.
us topics. Send us your opinions and questions. We want to hear it because, we're not all that introspective. We're going to stay 5 feet below the water. Not going to dive too deep, so we need your outside influences.
And Lord forbid we have Kevin picking out all the topics.
Oh,
So-
man, that could turn bad rough. When the next one is just going to be people I think I'm bigger than. That'll be a topic we hit for 20 minutes.
I don't think I have a problem with that. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
You're all in on that conversation?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, we could get really petty in being like, who has a bigger bank account? Mm-hmm. Who has a better 401k? Like,
yeah. Who seems to have a better reading level? Just who
reading
appears.
comprehension is actually a great game for UFC fighters.
Reading comprehension could be the best game for some UFC fighters. I think they should implement that on the concussion test. Like, there should be a UFC fighter before they get cameras in their faces. Be like, oh, what's his reading level? So we know where to set the bar on. Like, I'm pretty sure Hendricks is low after watching all of it. I know he went to college. He was a college wrestler, but
let's be very clear. When they interview somebody after a fight, nobody sounds that articulate.
that's true. I think
Because you've been punched in the head, which is where most thoughts come from.
yeah, that is most thoughts. Let's not get too. These are UFC fighters. I think the guys that need an interpreter get really lucky because they don't have to sound quite as everybody that speaks French is like, oh, we love George St. Pierre. Everybody that speaks Portuguese is like, doesn't matter what Anderson Silva's saying. But we demand a little bit more here in the United States of our English-speaking competitors.
Here's also what I enjoy about interpreters. I sometimes don't think they speak the language. I think they make up their own words. And I think every 10th word they add in the word honor.
That's all it is?
Yeah, it's always honor. It's always I respect my opponent.
God, you might be a genius. The fact that they just add the word honor, because I'm thinking like Anderson Silva, all these guys, every one of them is just like, it was a real honor to be here. Honor. I enjoyed the fight. Honor. These seats are great. It's an honor. You're right. They love the word honor.
And for an extra 10K, if you tell people to stop booing in a homeland, you'll definitely make that marker where you'll go, no, why is everybody booing?
You will be Dana White's favorite interpreter, too.
Yeah, this person is a warrior, and they deserve a warrior's... They deserve a warrior's welcome. Please give it up for them. And then they do, because audiences fall like that.
Yeah, especially their local guy. You want to cheer on your local guy.
Definitely.
And let's get back into local guy. Let's just dissect the fight. Let's go straight up to the top. Let's do GSP Condit. It's the fight everybody's thinking about. I'm going to go ahead and call it the best fight I've ever seen, if you want. From a mixed martial arts perspective, I think this is the best fight I've ever seen.
Which, by the way, is a great starting point for our show, to say we're just starting to do this show, but this is definitely the best fight we've ever seen.
The best fight as somebody that watches MMA, as somebody that's done a little amateur jiu-jitsu tourneys, where the fights are always never this good. This is the best fight I think I've ever seen.
Why is that?
Because from start to finish, it was a tactical battle that required all aspects of mixed martial arts. If you walked into there with subpar jiu-jitsu, GSP's going to pass your guard. Carlos Condit's going to do that armbar he was trying for and was really successful with in some of his counters and some of his sweeps. I thought he did a really good job staying active. But simultaneously, if you didn't have high-level striking, I mean high-level striking, you are losing that fight. Both guys were exchanging hard, were looking for opportunities to put in more advanced combinations than I think we're used to seeing. And I really was impressed by how much jiu-jitsu work both fighters showed high levels of.
I mean, let's be very clear. GSP's wrestling is just on another level. Mm-hmm. I think it gets so tricky that you would forget how good he is at jiu-jitsu because his wrestling is so good. But
yeah, that physical prowess can overpower a little bit of the jiu-jitsu.
And let's be clear. When GSP did get knocked down, and it looked like it was going rough in that third round, were you not entertained in the moment that GSP got up?
I couldn't believe...
skip back up.
I couldn't believe he came back up like that. I thought he was down, and I thought he was going to be really hurt because he appeared to be bleeding, he's swollen, and Condit just, like a ravaged dog, went at GSP with everything he had. You could tell, I think... It caught Condit by surprise that GSP came back from it because he took him down in no time. And it was like, holy hell, Everybody saw that I just kicked him in his face, right? I didn't make that up. It doesn't turn out I took an elbow harder than I thought. I thought Condit honestly wanted to stop and be like, I just knocked this guy down, right?
Can we take a moment to acknowledge this?
Yeah, I think he really wanted a moment where it was like, are you, and how spirit breaking. And let's get into that because I think that's the last moment of the fight that you felt Condit had a shot.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately, I think he won for that reason. That was the last moment you were just like, the rest of the fight, GSP had him down. And that was it.
Yeah.
Even that round, GSP struck some heavy blows.
Two of the judges still ended up giving it to GSP, despite that large takedown.
That's ridiculous, by the way. And not just because he got kicked in the face and knocked down, because then Condit took dominant position. He must have hit him with 5 to 6 what would count as strikes in MMA. So these judges have a pretty bad reputation, especially when we're in the hometown guys crowd. It's just the way it goes.
Oh, of course.
They're awful at these rounds. It's like, you cannot tell me GSP won that round.
I was sitting with people. One of my buddies made a giant case that GSP still won that round. I would have to go back and see it. I will say this. I will say in that moment, Condit threw that kick, and I think it was completely instinctual. I think there was no real method behind it, and he was surprised more than anything that it landed the way it did.
The kick?
Oh, definitely. And GSP in the post-fight presser was like, I didn't see it coming. I had no idea it was even in my realm or in my sight. So that was the most impressive part of that whole kick. Is just, it came out of nowhere. It made the fight even more exciting than it already was.
Did you kind of want GSP to explain what he did think hit him in the face? Because that was a part of that interview. I don't understand how that wasn't the number one question. When he goes, I didn't see the kick. Well, he said it. He did it in his voice, obviously. And I've heard a rumor that GSP might be calling in to interview in this,
Are you serious?
this podcast. I'm really excited about it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So maybe I'll have to ask him. But he very clearly said, and I listened to it also, they asked him what happened with that kick. It's always the first thing they ask, how was it when you got knocked upside your head with a pretty violent strike? And that was his response, right? He goes, I didn't see the kick. He almost made it sound like he didn't know it was a kick. No. And I really wanted to hear what he thought had happened in the moments preceding and following.
GSP follow-up question. Did you think it was a brick?
Did you think someone had thrown a brick from Montreal?
Did you
from
think
the stadium?
It was an aluminum can? Because they heard a little bit more than that. Do you feel pain?
Were you surprised the glass didn't break because you assumed it was a beer bottle, right?
Right, of course.
That's the question. But yeah, the MMA journalists are also just bad. They don't phrase their questions well.
Well, okay. Sure. I'll say this. I think that it's a really strange situation to talk to a fighter after they've been in a fight. Like
moments after they've been in a fight, by the way.
When you saw GSP make it to the presser, he didn't just have a bag of ice. He looked like he had the party size amount of ice that you get to bring to a Christmas party.
He had all of the ice. They walked in and they said, GSP, how many ice packs do you need? He goes, all of the ice. That's all. He just kept saying all of the ice.
I'm pretty sure I heard him quoted as saying, go to the nearest 7-Eleven and buy me all of them.
Get it all.
Get it all of them.
Hopefully they have 7-Elevens in Montreal. I'm sure they do.
819s over there.
819s. Mm-hmm. Okay, I have to ask you because this was the immediate question. What happens next? I'm going to pose to you two things that I think are acceptable.
Okay.
You can make a compelling case that this is the last chance to have GSP and Silva fight because they are both getting pretty old for the fight game.
Yes.
That's fight number one that I will accept.
Okay.
Fight number two that I will accept is a rematch between GSP and Condit.
So you're bypassing option number 3?
Hendricks? Yes, I am. If Hendricks is going to be involved in this equation, he has to fight Carlos Condit, in my opinion. For the same reason that I almost always kind of feel this after a decision. We don't necessarily have that finite answer to who the champion is here. We don't have that unresolved, oh, this is clear. Because Carlos Condit almost won that fight.
I would say this. I would say Carlos Condit put him in one really great round of danger. And I don't know that necessitates a rematch. I thought there was a clear winner by the end of the night. Like, I think GSP, as much as you might want to disagree here, definitely walked out of there as the victor who had a good challenge. But I don't necessarily think that Condit gets a return fight back. This is why the UFC, when you think about and you look at GSP's long line of opponents,
his pretty impressive defense resume right now.
His great resume. You've got multiple fights with Matt Hughes, BJ Penn, Matt Serra. God, I'm forgetting one right now.
Matt Hughes.
It's bugging me. I thought I said Matt Hughes. Blonde. Help me. Think.
Koscheck?
Go. Yep. And
Josh Koscheck. Beautiful. The most beautiful UFC fighter.
Is that
I'm including Rousey, by the way. I think Josh Koscheck is hotter. I'm pulling my straight male card out. I'm putting it on the table. I'm staring at it. It still is within its valid date. I'm saying I think Josh Koscheck is the prettiest person in the UFC.
Now, what makes you think that?
Look at him. I mean, you said blonde, and we immediately were able to narrow it down.
Well, you quicker than me, obviously, for different reasons, apparently.
Yeah, I'll just put my straight card back in my pocket, and we can move on.
There you go.
Okay.
You know, I like these matchups for GSP. I thought about option 2 a lot last night, and I think it makes the most logical sense. I did think about that I was talking more about the Anderson Silva. I'm sorry, that was option 1.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah.
I did entertain the idea of Condit getting a rematch, but I think that GSP proved it. I don't necessarily have too many question marks. I think Condit was bummed. At one point when I think he was asked if he had another chance to fight GSP, and I go, well, I think age and other fight interests say differently. I think that was his shot.
What do you mean? What was the question? Give me a little bit more context on that.
Oh, yeah. They were asking him...
Condit.
Condit. They were asking him about his feelings on the fight. And then I think it was Joe Rogan. You can tell me if it's different. But I'm pretty sure it was Joe Rogan that was asking him, hey, this time you didn't get him, kind of making it seem like there may be another opportunity in the future. And if you're looking at the next potential fights for GSP, unless you're making that same charge, and nobody talked about rematch at the presser.
No, I was surprised at the lack of... I think there's too many opponents to talk rematch.
Well, I think they've all got their eyes set on option 1 now.
Yeah, it's happening, isn't it? Would we be talking? Did you see the? Okay, let's go right into option 1.
Yeah.
Sorry, but do you agree Condit should face Hendricks? Because I do not think, just to clear this up, I don't think Hendricks earned a title shot.
Honestly, I would be into that. I would watch that in a heartbeat.
Let's be clear. I do like the idea of Hendricks just going full force at GSP and seeing if his haphazard style works, but. People were like, I think this immediately elevates him to the number 1 status. It's like, I don't know about that.
I think people see a knockout, they want to see another knockout. And they like the idea that GSP has someone who could potentially knock him out, which, as you've seen, tend to be from kicks. And I think that's kind of an intriguing premise, that you can knock him down like that if you have somebody who pushes that kind of action. I think that's why they think Diaz is such a great stand-up fight for him.
And we're definitely going to get to Nick Diaz's immediate tweet that George St. Pierre, he was not impressed by his performance, even though Carlos Condit erased Diaz from my contender map, personally. I don't think Diaz has any business until he can at least hang with Carlos Condit. Maybe Hendricks should get a run at Diaz's mouth next. That I'm much more excited about, by the way.
Well, you know what else doesn't impress Diaz?
What?
A drug test.
Well, he's impressed by their accuracy. That's he might be impressed by how they were able to suss him out. But I will say, I think Hendricks really earned a shot at Condit. and then you can decide from there. I think the clearest path is, and this will transition us back to option 1,
Okay.
Silva versus St. Pierre, but I think because Condit went 5, because they were both bloody, and Condit looked better at the presser than GSP did.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
GSP looked like he really did get hit a lot more from that guard than we thought maybe he did. Because he looked beat up.
Is getting older. I think GSP doesn't, getting hit like that doesn't have the same kind of healing process.
Sure.
He's taking his scrapes.
Which moves us into option 1, right? That he's fighting Silva.
Okay, let me just say this. There was, and I'm sure everybody who's watched that fight, 154, knows there was a picture-in-picture with Anderson Silva for more than 3/5 of that fight.
For 27 minutes of the 25-minute fight, Anderson Silva's face with Lyoto Machida's shitty mustache, by the way.
I thought differently about
him.
it today, where I said maybe he was playing Movember.
He must be playing. It looks like he's been growing that since before Movember, but my first instinct was, why does Lyoto Machida look so old? Right. And why does Anderson Silva look like he's an 18-year-old? Like, what's with the glasses? Why is he hipsteeing it?
One, I thought, why does Machida look like he's coming to this fight as his uncle?
That's how he's dressed? It just
he was dressed like his uncle, just with the little mustache. He looks like somebody he takes a picture with, like in Little League. And the second thought was, okay, Anderson Silva's wearing the most hipster-like glasses he could possibly find in his repertoire. And this whole time, you're watching it on the screen, and you're just like, why do we have this? And it made me think, I want a picture-in-picture for Anderson Silva on every fight. I want to see him not impressed by takedowns. I want to see him shaking his head, because the whole time, if he saw a takedown or a guard pass or anything like that he didn't like, he just shook his head in frustration, and it was compelling television. For at least one round of the fight, I'm positive I was staring just at Anderson Silva.
You were just watching more Anderson. It was distracting, though, in the sense that I guess I had a different interpretation. Raph apparently wants to pitch it as a reality series. I want to strangle the person that made that decision.
Okay, now why?
I guess for the exact opposite reasons. What did that add to the fight when we're sitting here in this? It's really hard not to overlook the fight at hand when they're already essentially trying to cut and paste Anderson Silva into the fight, as though to trick us into thinking it's almost like we can watch GSP versus Silva. We can just do it via this tiny little picture with Machida's shitty stash in the background. I was really distracted.
They were.
Yeah, the 2 halves of hips. That's they really did look like that. I did not understand that theatrical choice by the producers, but you apparently liked it, so maybe more people did.
Let me expand on that for one more second.
I did see him kind of bob and weave, and you're right to react to something when you see Anderson Silva react to it too.
Most definitely, and maybe it's because I grew up in the age of when they had pro wrestling, they had a picture-in-picture when there would be a fight in the background. And you would see the person then turn to the camera and cut a promo, and that was all I was begging for.
Just a little bit more.
Anderson Silva to already start promoting the next fight.
It's him literally fighting with, like, he's holding one of those cardboards of GSP, just like, no, we're not overlooking Condit. Let's all be polite. It is going to be the biggest payday these two giants could really look for what's left. And it's a good way to, I guess I'm going to start making a case for it now, even though I'm admittedly pretty still bitter about my Condit prediction. For those that don't know, which is everyone, except Raph, sadly, I predicted Condit would knock GSP out in the 3rd round. And you know that when he dropped, by the way, you also had a moment where you were like, oh my god, this is amazing, / holy S, Kevin might have predicted this to a T, which would have been
wrong. I was too drunk
to even remember.
I said, I don't remember what round we're in right. No, of course. I mean, there was a great moment where I thought, oh no, Kevin definitely had a great insight that something's going to happen in the 3rd round. It's just a shame he thought the fight would end here.
Yeah, it's just a shame he predicted that wrong something would happen. So I want to see Silva and GSP. If anything, I have to find out if Silva can be tested, and GSP is looking buff.
Oh, yeah.
What happened to that guy? Like, I haven't seen too many people put on 20 pounds of muscle post-knee rehab, so I'm going to go ahead and say the extra 9 months he took were a good idea.
I think what ended up happening with GSP is he, in rehab, was bench pressing everything around him.
Yeah, people,
Since he
nurses.
couldn't move his knee, he was just like asking people to bring him food trays. Then food trays gave way to like nurses. Then nurses gave way to like machines. Like, I think he just made the whole round robin.
Eventually, he was seen outside the hospital just lifting up the base of it from the foundation. And that's
definitely.
Has to be what happened. Oh my God, did you hear? This is something that I wrote down specifically to talk to you about. They kept saying that Carlos Condit hadn't fought in almost as long as GSP hadn't.
Yeah.
Except, then they were like, it's been 9 months for Condit, it's been 19 for GSP.
Yeah.
Is 9 closer to 19 in UFC months terminology that I'm aware of, or is that still twice as long as the fighting? It's like, that's an eternity in fighting. What are you talking about? They've been out almost as long. That's not even remotely close.
Yeah, it's the worst way of rounding up. I think I've heard in some time.
Granted, it's not 5 months, but it's 10 months apart. That's a whole nother almost year of not fighting than Carlos Condit has.
Well, from that same standard, GSP has only been training more than me than 19 years.
Just,
So,
he's only
close,
been
considering it's only a 19-year difference of martial arts training.
Yeah, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. It's like, well, I've been training almost as long as GSP has. There's a scant 19-year void, but
I'm going to see how much credibility that gets me, being like, me and GSP, we train so similar.
There's a lot that goes into it,
We're
similarity-wise.
practically the same person.
So, do you think this fight happens and we hear about it? What's a date? We both are resolved to the fact that it's happening, that we're excited. What's the time frame? When do you think it's happening?
They said May. They really want, I think, Cowboy Stadium to have that 100,000 audience. And I think it could work. But I don't know that it's May. I think they dangle this around us for a little bit longer, to be honest.
You think like July, August, when they tend to really... They love July. UFC loves July.
July's their big event. Yeah.
So that was my early prediction, that we're going to see these two guys announced for July, and that the card is going to be spectacular.
Oh, definitely. They'll go
all out. Dana likes to do this. He's gonna put everyone on this card he can and really look to make it a thing. I expect to see Sonnen in some realm.
Oh, God, he's so magical.
Yeah. What was your favorite... We're going to take a break here in about a minute and a half. Before we do that, what was your favorite entrance montage? Who was your favorite enterer into the ring? The cage.
To be honest, I don't know that I had anybody that night. The guy who walked out to Ellie Goulding, I thought that was hysterical.
There was also the guy that walked out to what's that the name of the band? It's like it's Offspring. Thank you.
Our good friend,
what was
Mr.
that? Mr. Lawler. That's right.
Here's what I'll say about Lawler's entrance. They had played a pre-package of him walking out, and he did the Hulk Hogan call and response here.
Yeah.
And I was way more into that than him walking out with the glasses and the hat to the Offspring.
I could have tackled him, and I might if I ever get to watch him do that live. It's like I'm going to punch Tom Lawler on his way to the stage and just be like, "What are you doing?" I'm going to give that award also to GSP for his unreal gi kimono. That thing was spectacular.
I am immediately jealous of it.
I want 7. I want them in different colors for different days of the week. I want to start wearing them to the gym for sure. I want to start wearing them out. I just want to live in different colored gis that look like that.
Here's what I'm saying about that gi. It was so amazing. I wondered if on his way inside of the arena, if GSP had mugged a sushi chef.
That's how he got it?
I was like, whoa, that gi is too amazing. You must be a master chef.
You had to have stolen that from a culinary genius very recently to have achieved it.
Or Sonny Chiba, one of the two.
They both sound reasonable, and I'm sure the Montreal police are looking into both of those explanations. So we're both game on the UFC fighters take notice. Start upping up that gi game, and you were going to earn 2 fans immediately. Like that was the first time I was like, maybe I do want GSP to win this fight.
I like that. That's what it took for you to win for him. With a great walkout and a great gi.
That's how it goes. Okay, Raph, we're gonna give you a 4-minute break.
Sounds good.
So we will be back in just a moment. Undisputed welterweight champion of the world here with us, fresh from his hospital bed, we can only presume, the one, the only, George Rush St. Pierre. GSP, how you doing?
Thank you very much for having me on your show. It is nice to be here, even though my head hurts.
Your head hurts. Does it? It still hurts. It looked painful in that presser. What hurt the most?
Mostly the kicking in the head. That was the first part that hurt very much.
Does it hurt as bad as it looks?
Yes. Although I don't usually look into mirror.
Okay.
Yesterday I hit kicking head. I look at mirror. I go, oh, he hit me right there. Carlos Condit, very good.
Very good. It looked like a good fight. Champ, I have to say, I am truly impressed by your comeback. What's your secret throughout this training? Did you have a couple of things that were really helpful to getting back into fighting shape?
Thank you very much. I often am impressed by my own caliber of performance.
Awesome.
Thank you. But
That's
yesterday, I think I don't get to say this with Joe Rogan, but most important secret is I train with moose.
You train with a moose?
I train with a moose.
Like a live moose?
Yeah. I tried to hunt it one time. I shoot at it no die. I say, I want to train with moose.
I don't know how to, I can't argue with it, I'll tell you that. And after watching the way you recovered, I'd say perhaps moose fighting, people should really start looking into that.
No, it's mine. Do not take it from me.
Okay, so no, everybody don't do that.
That's right.
I do want to ask you, in the third round towards the end, and then almost all the way through the fourth and fifth, did you know Anderson Silva's face was plastered all over the screen, that it was right next to the fight?
Yeah, I could see him. I look up at TV in Sky. I see Anderson Silva with his nice hipster glasses. I say, Anderson, you no fight me now. I fight Carlos Condit. Then I come back. We talk later. But
you guys had that discussion. You guys had that discussion before the fight or during the fight, during that round?
No, I did it telepathically.
Okay. You and Anderson speak telepathically.
That's right. I shave my head to be like Professor X, Xavier.
Yeah.
I look at his mind. I say, Anderson Silva.
X-Men reference. That's good.
I call you later on Skype.
You guys use Skype too? That's great.
Oh, yeah. We Skype all the time. Sometimes I Skype and I say, what are you doing right now?
Uh-huh. And he says,
nothing.
Does he say it in English or Portuguese? How do you guys bridge the neither of you speaking English or the same language?
How dare you?
I apologize. I didn't mean to.
I speak French Canadian. I'm very good at it.
You are very good at it.
Thank you. No, we basically punch that camera.
Yeah.
That is how we tell to one another.
That's how it's your own Morse code. Punch the camera. Well, Champ, I know I have you for about 25, 30 more seconds, so I gotta ask before, any big tips on the horizon? Can you give us any hints into what is next for you?
Okay, no, this is a very good question. I think I am going to sleep a little bit. I am going to put up a poster of Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to put it on a brick. I'm going to then throw the brick outside into the ocean and say, I do not like you. And then we shall see. If Moose return brick to me, then I know it is true and I fight him. If Moose no bring to me, I fight someone else.
Good enough. That sounds great. That sounds well, thanks for your time, GSP. I hope you do get some sleep and put a little bit more ice on that head. I think you might need a little bit more of that sleep you were talking about. You have a good day. And good, Raph.
Phillips, Kevin.
Yes, thank you, GSP. It looks like Raph is returning. Raph, are you back on the line? Did I just see you pop up?
What's up, man?
Oh, no, hey, you just missed GSP. You're not going to believe it.
Oh my God, how was he?
He was, I don't mind telling you, he was a little off. He sounded like he got punched in the face a little bit.
Really? You would think he got kicked in the head or something. That's so weird.
It was like he took a direct shin to the temple. Boy, you could see where he took that hit too. Did you see the knot on his head coming out of that fourth round?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That was one of the biggest things I've seen. So I've been talking to Raph about this next topic, and I'm really curious because I like the drama that kind of unfolds in the training camp. I like how much more we're hearing from the trainers in the UFC previews and the prime times. I love that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I love the game plan. Do you think that Greg Jackson stepping out of the fight, not training either guy, was important to this fight?
You know, I going into this fight thought yes. And by the end of the fight yesterday, I actually didn't think it out all that much difference at all, really. It's weird because it ended up being a spectacular fight even without him being there.
It really did. And is Rashad Evans kind of vindicated here a little bit?
It's hard to say. I mean,
it's
Rashad
hard to say.
I think Rashad is kind of a drama queen in a high regard.
Oh, for sure. For sure a drama queen.
But I think the hardest part is, I think, if anything, John Jones's ascension into a full heel bad guy character now maybe has more to prove from what Rashad's talking about.
Yeah, and I'm going to cut you off because now I've taken us down a rabbit hole, which I'll be doing frequently. But just for the purposes of this, let's get back to the training and kind of the impacts it had. What do we think Condit could have done to win the fight besides the obvious, which was maybe not bleed so much?
Yeah, I think
he's a bleeder.
I will say this. I think that with Condit in the first two rounds, he was really pulling out. Like, you could tell he was coming at war, and it was good. And he was getting outclassed a little bit by GSP. But I think a certain thing happened after that third round where they just both got tired. And
yeah, maybe.
You could see it in GSP. You could see the fact that he hadn't been in an octagon for that long. Was it still more amazing than most people do? Of course.
Yeah.
But I think that he had exhausted himself. And I think that Condit, in a different way, was absorbing, at this point, at least stuff takedowns. He was absorbing just getting taken down, period, was another problem I saw with him. I don't know what else he could have done differently, or that a corner might have made it all that much more different.
Yeah, I did like in the post presser, they said, you kept trying to kick despite knowing he was going to take you down, and he said, well, he was going to take me down regardless.
Right.
I was going down, so I might as well kick while I'm doing it. I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good answer to that question.
Yeah.
I thought the one area where he had to get better was was the takedowns. Like, by the third round, why are you still letting him take you down and put you in this position where he's controlling the fight?
Yeah, but who else really has been able to resist the GSP takedowns?
Yeah, I guess it's easier to say from outside the cage. It's just by that third round, it was like, you need to keep your distance because you're losing this fight when it goes to the ground. You're maintaining, but you're not winning it. And that was the big thing. That was, by the end of it, it was a great fight because there was a lot of blood. And whenever there's a lot of blood, that's always good. Apparently both.
Whenever someone is wearing a crimson mask, it's a good fight.
Yeah.
Or my friend said, somebody should have given Condit juice and a cookie for all the blood he donated.
That's a great way to put it. Let's take 2 minutes to finish up the fight and give. Okay. I would like both of us to give a suggestion to Carlos Condit.
Okay.
For how he can improve next time, and a suggestion to GSP on who he should fight next. So
this is the worst part of our show by far.
By far. So I'll go first and say, fight was everything I wanted it to be except GSP was not at all aggressive in those last 2 rounds. He pretty much just stopped swinging, and I was disappointed by kind of the lack of real finality it had.
They did get to the rabbit punch part of the show, definitely.
He did. My one tip to George St. Pierre for who he should fight next is go, please give us the fight that will at least get us an undercard where Hendricks is not on it as the second fight in the main. I just want him to choose Silva so we have a better undercard.
Agreed.
Carlos Condit, again, I thought he fought his heart out. I really appreciated the way he left it all on the mat. And that's going to segue us into the tip. Maybe not leaving it all on the mat. Maybe not so much bleeding and staying on the ground that you physically leave over a quart of blood on the mat. He should keep some of that. So in case he was confused, the term leave it all on the mat does not refer to ounces of blood.
Right. All right. Well, good notes and tips.
Very.
Well, let's not get that far ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
Okay, my note and my tip. Let's start with Mr. Carlos Condit. My biggest tip for you is going to be, I guess, just take time to recover and pick your next opponent wisely. I think it's going to, a lot of people are saying GSP's next fight is going to be very telling for him. And I think that's true. But I think it's even more so for Carlos Condit because I could very easily see GSP out of the game at a time that would still make Condit champion if he really gets on his game and figures out his game plan for the next few fights.
I would totally agree. He can wait out being at the top of the pecking order. I think he certainly established his dominance as the top 3. He's the top 3 welterweight, without question.
And right time, right place.
Yeah.
I would probably say, what was that? Was that a tip or suggestion? What is this? Am I giving them something you give a waiter? I don't really understand what the point of this is.
Slide GSP $3 extra. No. Now just give a small plea to GSP on who he should fight next.
Oh, okay.
Presuming he's listening. I mean, he was just on the podcast, so we know they're all listening. We know they're influenced by us, Ref. I mean, I think that's obvious in our first edition podcast.
In our very first edition, we can already tell the mass influence we hold over the population.
I think it's clear.
Mr. GSP, I say this with all due respect. Give us the fight we want to see. I know that you and Anderson Silva are getting to that point where you're looking toward either the downhill part of the career in terms of you've reached a certain kind of peak and how you play with it really dictates what your legacy is. But I think at this point, legacies are solidified. Why not go to be the best?
Yeah.
Why not take every form of decision criticism you've ever gotten and show us that you could be the person that we think could make a very, very strong fight between you and Anderson Silva. Granted, Kevin wants to see the stronger fight between Anderson Silva and John Jones, which would be an amazing fight.
I totally want to see that fight.
But even Anderson Silva shot that down.
He did very quickly.
And I don't blame him to a certain extent. I think GSP brings a certain kind of game that really challenges Anderson Silva at a level he hasn't been challenged before. And I honestly think Anderson Silva still wins, but I'm interested to see what would happen. And
Hold on. You're claiming GSP Silva is a better fight than John Jones and Anderson Silva?
I'm not sure. No, I'm not. I think you put words in my mouth there.
I was just clarifying. I wanted to make sure I didn't have to jump through the microphone to L.A. to find out who was holding a gun to your head and telling you to say stupid things into the podcast.
And reality don't allow you to jump through the microphone. But sure.
Man, just being a man does, though, Raph. It's... Okay, you go ahead. I'll stop talking.
I'll say this. I think that John Jones is such a great fight for Anderson Silva. But I don't know that you see the fight that you really want to see between those two. I honestly think... I think John Jones has a good chance of winning that fight. But I don't know. There's something about the way that both Anderson Silva and GSP conduct themselves and the way their ascension in the UFC and the kind of hold they've had over the past 4 or 5 years of dominance as champions.
Yeah.
That really makes it that much more interesting to see in terms of a matchup that seems feasible, that we've talked Dana White into wanting to do now. It's a matter of we've convinced him there's a need for it.
Yeah, no, he's all in.
Him over to the next part. And I think from what they were saying, it sounded like Anderson's really ready to make it happen, and Dana wants to make it happen, and they could be entirely stringing us along because it's not unlike fighters to do that. But I hold out hope that that's one of the next fights we see in the next, let's say, 9 months. Let's say that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because they're two of the figureheads. But, man, I'd rather see Silva and Jones fight.
Of course you would. But I don't think I don't think Anderson Silva's into that.
Why isn't he into that? Didn't he go up to the 205... fights Forrest Griffin, fights a few other guys? Didn't he do that just to possibly flirt with this idea, or were those just fights he was taking? Now I'm confused about what the whole point of that was.
I think it was for funsies. I think it was
for
just
funsies.
I think he literally looked at a calendar one day and just was like, "I'm not doing anything then. I'll do that.
I've got that day open. I can knock Forrest Griffin.
I'm not going to take any vacation with my kids.
I'll put that Neanderthal down." Okay, well, now we're moving into my favorite, because I will get super angry if we start talking about the Jones-Silva thing. Let's move into my favorite part, Raph's favorite part, the part to point out why we are better than the other one. If I lost every fight of the night, except for one, the only thing you could say to me to make me feel better is that Raph lost every night of the fights. Like, he didn't get one right. So as long as we're one above the other, and I feel like you feel the same.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Okay,
so let's just start at the top of this card. SS Siller loses to Darren Elkins. You took the triple S in KO. I took Elkins. It was a decision, one of the many decision fights, so I win that round.
But it was a good fight, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, so I'm keeping tally. I'm up 1-0. Okay. Then we both liked Azmat Gajimov. And Ivan Menenjar, whom we both insulted several times about his picture, goes ahead and proves us wrong, winning hard in submission, so we both lose that one.
Well, let's just say, not only do we both lose that one, but I think UFC fans worldwide won on that one, because that submission
was intense.
So disgusting.
It was good.
It was one where I actually texted one of my buddies who I roll with, and I said, "I'm pulling that off on you." And in complete gist, had sent that to him, and he sent me a note back that was like, "You're out of your mind." And
please don't do that to me.
No, I had nothing to say. I was like, "There's no way I could pull that off." Not at all. But I like saying that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. There are moments where it's like, stealing that. Wait, what did he do?
Right.
Let's move up to Matthew Riddle versus John McQuire. I had Riddle. You had McQuire.
I did.
So I'm up 2-0 because we both lost. I'm going to count ones we both lose as just nothing. They just don't even exist.
Fine. They never existed. Those fights never happened.
Yeah, same if we win. If we win, I'll give us both points, but not if we if we both lost it.
Right.
We both really liked Rodrigo Dam because of his violent picture. We thought Carvalho looked like a bleeder, and we were inaccurate. Turns out Carvalho's not all that much of a bleeder, and Dam's not all that much of a swinger. So we both lose that one also. Thanks, Dam. Okay, J-Mac versus Stout. I'm looking at what you've got. You have Stout, and I have J-Mac. I have MacDessie in the win. There's another decision, so I'm up 3-0. You're about to make a comeback, though, so feel okay. So then we've got Patrick... No, I'm sorry. RDA versus Bosick. So Mark Bosick versus Rafael Dos Anjos. You were sure Rafael Dos Anjos was a name that would win.
Of course.
And you were right, putting you on the board.
Because, let it be known, people named Rafael always win.
Man, did Bosick get beat up in that fight, too. It was a decision, but it was not a decision. Like, that was a rough fight for Bosick. That was not his best performance. So Griggs v. Diabate. Griggs takes it with the win, which you had Griggs.
Nice.
So you're making a little comeback. It is now 3-2. For the tie, Kote versus Sakara. I had Sakara because I think Kote is an awful fighter. You had Kote and you win. Though I'm going to put an asterisk next to this one for the obvious.
How dare you?
For the obvious illegal head strikes. That rule confuses me in the UFC. They need to revisit that one.
Look, if we're talking about head strikes that have caused trauma to the brain,
yes,
I think that given the way you live your life, you have an advantage over me in understanding that. Considering how damaged her brain is. So I feel that the asterisk there is not necessary.
Okay. I disagree with you because I'm on the losing end of it. So we'll just agree to disagree on that end. I don't think, the next fight, I think the world is disappointed. This was an awful, awful fight. And this is the Lawler versus Carmel.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
How bad was that fight? It was like, Carmel, are you interested in fighting at all?
Yeah.
Tom Lawler, I thought should have won just because he was the only one pushing the action.
Yeah.
So do you agree that there's an asterisk next to that fight for whether or not Carmont is a physical specimen, isn't he? Like, he's big and lanky and has a reach, but doesn't look like he sacrifices any size to be there.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look like he totally wants to fight.
No.
He's just happy dancing around, trying this small little Kimura that's never going to work, but Lawler apparently is terrified of. So we both took filthy Lawler and were disappointed, so let's remember. This is a fight we have not really talked about. Johnny Hendricks versus Martin Kampmann. Kampmann... Do you think Kampmann woke up and knew what day it was today, where he was located, and his full name, which is hard to spell, but do you think he knew any of those things?
I think he knew 2 out of 3 of them.
2 out of 3. I bet he had to mess up his name, so we know he messed up his name, so maybe he knew the other 2.
It's Tuesday?
Wait, what country am I in? So maybe he got hit hard.
Yeah, that was awesome, though.
Oh, and did you almost look at Hendricks' face? Hendricks had this like slight moment where he was almost kind of disappointed. Yeah, like I've been training for how long for a 7-second fight? This is great. This is awesome. Kampmann, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's so hard to give him number 1 contender status, Hendricks, I mean, just because the fight was like, well, do we know if he was, or do we just, maybe Kampmann's not good? Maybe Kampmann...
Let's also keep in mind, fight fans have a very short memory.
Very short.
They love
very
the fact
short.
that another contender was on the same card they just saw. So they go, how about that guy fights that guy?
Yeah, and so you're saying that'll subside here in like a month? People are going to be like, Johnny,
Possibly.
who?
I mean,
Who's
it's
Johnny?
hard because people do harbor those feelings. But I entirely think when you sit down and let GSP decide whatever he's going to decide, the cards will fall where they may.
Okay, you're being very diplomatic about
I'm
this.
trying to, man. Because
I have opinions.
I have opinions.
And I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Journalist, sir.
I have done 2 hours of research on this podcast. Okay, so Compton, and then wow, this is close. So I won with the Garza, is that right? Where was the Garza decision? Yeah, Pablo Garza versus Mark Hominick. I get the W. So this is, sorry, going back, I skipped that one. Because my official count has us now tied. You had GSP by decision. I had Condit in the third. So we literally, after all of that, tied 4-4.
Wait, what?
We tied 4-4. Of the 12 fights that I have a decision for, and I'm assuming one of the fights didn't make it. I didn't hear why. Or I wasn't paying attention to why.
The guy, he got sick, is what happened.
Oh, God.
And that's
really?
why the fight with Rafael got bumped up to the main.
Ah, okay, that's helpful. So after all that, it's 4-4. So here's what I'll say. You called the main card accurately. Like, you called the fight everybody was watching and cared for. So just to give everybody some context, the bet was you had to say 3 nice, like, legitimate compliments to the other person on their Facebook wall. Because you won the main one, and specifically because, and Raph, I'm going to give you some credit here, which marked the day and time. Maybe I'm just feeling nostalgic because it's the first one. I know. I swear there's no health news coming after this. You made this observation. You said whenever you get to a third round with Silva and St. Pierre, they almost let you finish the next 2 rounds as like a Warriors accord. As though they pre-agreed that, you know, if you can last 15 minutes with this physical specimen, I'm going to let you ride the next 10 out so we can keep transitioning into a world where you're still a number 1 contender. And it felt like a lot of that, because my big complaint about that 4th and 5th round was, and this is credit to GSP for understanding, all he had to do was make Carlos Condit, he just had to like blow on that eye real close, and all of a sudden Condit turned into a Freddy Krueger character. Like, it's just blood was everywhere. The guy was like, the forehead bleeds a lot. It's like, I don't think anything bleeds that much unless it's in some trouble.
At my place, there was a great moment where we looked at where the cut was, and somebody goes, "Oh, that's not above the eye. I think that's in the hair."
Yeah, there was a good 20 seconds where they were like,
immediately just go, ooh.
Yeah, it just started oozing blood back down. So because you were right about the main one, and specifically because you called that, I thought that fight was ending. I cannot believe that fight went the distance.
Yeah.
Both guys were, and I was really impressed with Condit's bottom work.
Yeah.
He's clearly a bossy bottom. The term goes into MMA rarely, but he was striking pretty seriously from the ground, which I think is good. I think it's good to see that. And a lesser fighter gets rocked by that. A lesser fighter doesn't keep pushing that, but GSP is like, no, this is just fodder. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look messed up, but this doesn't hurt. So I will write one nice thing. Given that it was a 4-4, I still put an asterisk next to your Cote victory, but you should get at least 2 points for the GSP decision.
Mm-hmm.
So I will write, is that a compromise? 1 day of a nice compliment?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
That's fine. I mean,
it's going to be hard. It's going to be tomorrow, and I'm
definitely going to share, repost, reblog, whatever it is you say.
So it'll be like I've been doing it for 3 or 4 days? Is
what
you're saying?
I'll carry it out throughout the rest of the week, for sure.
Good. That sounds awesome. This is going to be one of those statuses I stare at my screen for 15 minutes. You know the ones I'm talking about? Where you have to think of something clever to say or something nice, and then I'm a casual speller, which means I'm a habitual misspeller. So I'll spend 10 minutes staring at the computer screen and this one's going to hurt. So I'd say you're going to get 20 minutes of sheer misery out of me, if that helps.
Oh, you have no idea.
Yeah.
I base most of my friendships on how much misery I cause them. So I consider this a win.
Yeah, well, it is. Look, folks, we're going to be doing this before and after every UFC event. We're going to be doing this when there's some big moments and we just haven't talked a little bit. To give you an idea about some of the things coming up, we have Henderson versus Diaz, which is a fight I'm kind of excited about. I love watching Henderson fight. I just love it. He's super weird. I do love the pressers and all of his... he goes to a bookstore and reads sci-fi on Friday nights. It's like, okay, that's cool.
I was asking you about your stand-up.
Yeah, nice angel wings tattoo. That was well thought out. You're going to love those in 5 years when you're this real bad A fighter. Versus Diaz. This is going to be a good fight. Those are two guys that bring it to the table. So we're definitely going to talk before and after that. There's a kind of main event. I don't know if we'll do that one. Friday, December 14th. Soteropoulos versus Pearson. It's in Australia. I don't know if Soteropoulos is a main event fighter since his Ultimate Fighter days.
I think we'll touch base around that time because I think we've got the Ultimate Fighter finale happening that Saturday,
You are 100% correct. So maybe we'll make it a nice double Sunday episode where we talk about both.
Yep, we'll do it just like Hefner did back in the day at the Playboy Mansion, 2 at once.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Thank you.
Please listen, please find us on the different social medias. Raph, I appreciate your time. I don't appreciate your opinions that much, but I do enjoy tolerating them in a nice mutual space for others' benefit. So,
Kevin, I don't care much for you.
GSP's back. GSP's back.
Oh, no, it wasn't GSP. Are you talking about?
I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking.
Hold on. GSP just came back in the studio for a second. Hold on.
Did he?
Hi, Kevin.
Yes, George.
I cannot believe you no pick me. Next time,
I feel bad about that.
Punch you in face.
Wait,
then kick you.
Still with the
like
moose?
I got kicked by Carlos Condit. That is all. I have to go. GSP out.
Okay, thanks, Georges. God.
So weird. Bye, GSP. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, Raph, the connections. Weird. Thanks again for bringing GSP.
Dude, I'm more than happy to give my large wheelhouse of people.
All right. Well, that's as good a place to end it as I feel like we're going to see. Until next time, this is Verbal Tap. Kevin and Raph. Thanks, guys.
Good night. Good fight.